Good afternoon, everybody. Going to talk today about reproductive issues in your hybrid laying hens. Now, um, what with chick season coming up, and we're looking for our stock for this upcoming year. I figured I would come on and talk about the differences between heritage breeds and um, your hybrid production layers. Now, hybrid production layers are in many different names: red sex link, black sex link. Your bovins, golden comets, things like that. Typically, when you go into a feed store where a lot of us get production breeds, it'll say right on the label, production bird or hybrid or whatever. Now, this is not to tell you what to buy, what not to buy, but it's to give you an idea of some of the issues that you can experience with these um, with these production birds. And a lot of these production birds actually have some reproductive issues that are a lot more common than with heritage breeds. Now, that's not to say that a heritage breed won't um, have reproductive issues. Of course, they will, but a lot less frequent than your hybrid layers. Leghorns, for example, the well-known hybrid breed, been around for a long time. Excuse me, heritage breed. But because they have been so mass produced and the best layers are used to breed the next stock, they've actually really come into the production layer aspect of laying hens. So they are very prone to reproductive tract cancers, more so than a lot of other heritage breeds. So when you're purchasing these birds, there's some things that you can be aware of, and then look out for as they start to produce for you. Now, mind you, when you when you are thinking about what you want to do for your flock and how you want to structure your flock, whether you want a heritage breed or a hybrid breed, how many eggs you're looking for, that kind of thing. If you're looking for just a mass output of eggs, then a hybrid might not be a bad idea. But be aware that there may be some issues that come further down their laying life line. Um, most commercial uh, egg farms will cull the entire flock at about 2 years of age, because that's when these issues really start to crop up. And if you pay attention to these groups, like this group and Maine Poultry Connection and the other poultry groups, you'll see that even after about a year and a half to 2 years, you start seeing these issues. Hey, I've got this hen that seems to be egg bound, which 9 times out of the 10, it's not egg bound. It's another issue that mimics egg binding in chickens, and it happens to be a reproductive issue. A lot of these problems that you see are directly related to these issues in hybrid breeds. And so we're going to start out with the first one. I'm going to put up some overlays, And it's basically going to give you an idea of what this issue is, what it looks like, and what to look for in your chicken. And the first one is salpingitis. Now, basically, salpingitis is what we typically refer to as the lash egg. Now, that's basically from an infection, whether it be bacterial, viral. More often than not, it is an infection. Can be caused from trauma, egg binding, things like that. But primarily, the cause is infection. Excuse me. You'll see a lot of times in poultry groups, a lot of people will say, well, that's an infection and it's typically fatal, and a lot of times that may be the case if it's not treated. But your chicken that's laying a lash egg, um, if it does have an infection, it can be treated with antibiotics. A lot of what you're going to see that I'm posting here will have a vet component to it. I know that's very, very difficult here in Maine. We don't have a lot of vets that take care of poultry, but you can get some of these antibiotics to treat these type of infections over the counter, uh, from Blue Seal, Tractor Supply, things like that. Um, Penicillin, I always keep on hand just in case I ever need it. And it goes a long way to keeping your flock healthy if you need to go that route. A lot of people won't, but a lot of people do, and these treatments are available to you should you choose to use them. So uh, now that we know what salpingitis is, that's probably one of the most common things that you'll see, even within your heritage breed, but more often than not within your hybrid breeds. Now we're going to go to oviduct impaction. Now, basically, oviduct impaction is basically when you just get a buildup of egg follicles in the oviduct, and the bird can't expel it, and it just keeps building and building and building and building and building, and it basically mimics egg binding. And again, there are treatments for it. um, there is a vet component to it. Again, you're going to find a lot of vets in the area. A lot of vets here in Maine don't do chickens. I know we've had one come online that will see chickens, but what their level of experience and what they will do for your bird is always going to be a question. Um, some of these things may require surgery, which is probably not the best idea. There's a lot involved when it comes to surgery on it, especially when it has something to do with the oviduct or the ovary. There's a lot of blood flow to this area, and it can be problematic to do surgery in this area. So a lot of vets probably will not do it. But oviduct impaction will basically mimic egg binding, and you can do the typical egg bound treatment for your chicken, and it's just not going to work. Um, Egg yolk peritonitis is another one. Now, egg yolk peritonitis is basically when egg yolk form, does not form a shell, and it gets deposited into the abdomen of the chicken. Now, when you think about oviduct impaction or egg yolk peritonitis, um, the chicken has about 106 to 107-degree body temperature. So when you think about these things being stuck or continually deposited in the abdomen of the chicken or in the oviduct of the chicken, you're literally talking about cooking this material. And we know that egg yolk is a medium, well suited for bacteria. So when you add the chicken's internal body temperature, 106 to 107 degrees, to an oviduct impaction or egg yolk peritonitis, where the egg yolk is actually deposited into the abdomen, it can really lead to some serious issues. Now, as long as there's no underlying condition, it may just be a one-off thing where just slips by, gets deposited into the abdomen. You may be able to take care of it with antibiotics, but more often than not, it's an ongoing thing. There's an underlying issue, and it keeps a yolk or the follicle keeps being deposited inside the abdomen of the chicken, and it could turn out really, really bad and may not be treatable. So let's take a look at some of the signs. When you take a look at some of the signs, again, they often mimic an egg-bound chicken. And a lot of times, if you see this and you think, oh, okay, I've got an egg-bound hen, and you try the normal treatment, which we're going to go to egg binding next. But when you try the normal treatment for an egg-bound hen, the bath, putting it into a dark crate and letting the egg pass, you may not get results, and you may have a bird that continually shows these signs with no resolve. Now, you're probably gonna look at a long-term problem with this bird, and even if you take it to the vet, the outcome may not be favorable. So let's take a look at egg binding. Egg binding is basically what we all know. It's an egg that is formed, and it's actually stuck in the oviduct. Now, with egg binding, there are some treatments that you can do, and we're going to show you again some of the signs of egg binding. Um, Egg binding, you're going to see that typical penguin walk, squatting. They're going to kind of be off by themselves, depressed. They may not eat so much, which is typical of a lot of these reproductive issues. But with egg binding, you can typically feel an egg present, a fully formed hard shell egg present just inside the cloaca. If you take your pinky finger, lube it up, and insert it into the cloaca up into the oviduct, you can actually feel a hard shelled egg. Well, there's a number of things that you can do in that instant, and we're going to go to treatment right here. Um, Treatment, you can basically relaxing bath, massage, as we all know, that kind of thing will generally resolve an egg bound hen. Now, if you do these treatments and you found that okay, the chicken passed the egg, great, that's probably going to be the end of it. We see a lot of we see a lot of the time with egg bound hens that once the egg passes, you're generally okay as long as it doesn't turn into a prolapse. Um, Prolapse is another issue. It's pretty challenging to take care of. It requires effort, and it requires time, and it requires a nice, quiet, warm, dark place for the bird so they're not trying to lay another egg while they're prolapsed or being treated for prolapse. Um, Prolapse is you have an egg bound hen, or even not being egg bound, the hen passes an overly large egg. We see this a lot of times with new layers. A lot of times, new layers will lay small, we call them fairy eggs. They may even lay a soft shelled egg, or they may lay this absolutely ginormous egg and a prolapse happens. Well, when that happens, it can be fatal if it's not treated right away. So the treatment for a prolapse is to basically push that prolapse back up in to ensure, well, to try to get it to stay there. How do you do that? Well, you reduce inflammation. There's some homemade remedies, sugar. A lot of people have good results with that. You can use Preparation H. You're trying to reduce the swelling of the prolapse and then push it back up in. A lot of people will go the route of pushing it back up and not holding it. And when I say hold it, I mean push it back in and then hold it. Hold it there for a minute or two. A lot of lube on your fingers. So when you pull back out, you're not pulling the prolapse back out. But it definitely requires a, a reinsertion and a hold. Hold for a minute or two, maybe even longer, until the chicken stops pushing back. Now, when you insert the prolapse back up in, the chicken's instinct is going to be to push back. You need to hold it long after the chicken has stopped pushing back. Um, then, once you've got that done, place your bird into a nice secluded spot away from any stress, dark, warm, so they're not trying to lay another egg right away to push that prolapse back out. So that's how we deal with an egg bound prolapse chicken. The next one is what they call cystic right oviduct. Now, cystic right oviduct is a little bit different than some of these other ones because chickens are born with two oviducts just like a human is, but the right oviduct regresses and the left oviduct is the one that becomes active and producing eggs. Now, in these hybrid birds, and not even in in a hybrid bird, but it can be in all birds. But primarily, you'll see it more often than not in your hybrid breeds. But that right oviduct becomes filled with fluid. Now, if not treated, again, it can be it can turn into something like ascites, where this fluid builds up. It puts a lot of pressure on the organs, and you'll see that your chicken is exhibiting signs of ascites. Well, it may not necessarily be ascites in the form of, say, organ failure, but it certainly will put pressure on the organs, especially the air sacs. So the chicken may have, a darkened colored comb. It may be dark blue, purple, that kind of thing, and may mimic ascites when it is a cystic right oviduct. Fluid can be drained, but you need to know what you're doing. And that's something that I'm not prepared to go into because I don't have a bird here that is exhibiting these signs to allow me to treat. So, much like ascites, the fluid can be drained. And typically, if you can keep that fluid drained, then the outcome may be favorable. But a lot of times, these reproductive issues um, are not um, are not favorable in the outcome. So when you talk about bringing in new birds to your flock and you're asking yourself, what do I need from this flock? Do I need X amount of eggs? Do I need eggs and then meat? Um, Ask yourself, do I want to deal with these reproductive issues down the road? Um, I cannot tell you the frequency of these issues. All we have to do is take a look at these groups we're in, and we see the frequency. So these issues do exist. They are a lot more common with your hybrid breeds than they are with your heritage breeds. So keep that in mind when you're building your flock for this year, for next year, for the future, on what your egg needs are going to be, what your long-term goal is going to be with this particular breed that you're buying. Now, keep in mind, heritage breeds are going to live a lot longer than your hybrid breeds. Hybrid breeds typically don't last more than 3.5 years. Yes, we do see some that are 4 years old, that are 5 years old, that really no longer produce anymore because they're designed for mass output. From the moment they start laying an egg, they're designed to push as many eggs out as they can in a short period of time. That has consequences on the bird itself and in the breeds. Now, again, some of these heritage breeds that we're looking at, especially leghorns, they are prone to reproductive issues, especially reproductive tract cancer. And that's just because of the nature of the way they've been hybridized. And so basically, that's it in a nutshell. Comparing your heritage breeds to your hybrid breeds and what you can expect long term. Long term, your heritage breeds, especially if you get them from a local breeder, your Barred Rocks, your New Hampshires, your Rhode Island Reds, things like that are going to perform for you. They're going to lay well for you. They're going to lay longer. They're going to have a longer lifespan than your standard hybrid production breed, like your red sex link, black sex link, golden comet, red star. We've seen all the names, the bovins, the things like that. But so I hope this helps people out in making their decision on how they want to build their flock for this year, next year, going forward in the future. Um, Pay attention when you go to the feed store. If that's where you're going to buy your birds, ask what type of bird it is you're buying. If it's not labeled, um, depending on where you go, some of these places are going to be well versed and well knowledgeable in what chickens they have in stock. I know some places are not so much. It's very unfortunate, but hopefully this will help build your flock for the future and keep your birds in your flock in good health. So until next time, happy chickening. Thank you, everybody.